Hey folks, just a short video for you today. It is sponsored by Alienware. Shout out to Alienware. You can stick around to the end of the video to see a little bit about some of their new products, and that helps me out if you want to do that. You can check links in the description for all that. You can also support me with the link tree down there. But I like to do a little bit of behind the scenes conversation on this channel, and in the past 5 or so years, I've done a number of videos on this channel about the way that myself and other members of the media work with Riot. And while I cannot speak for them, and I know a lot of them have different opinions or whatever, I do want to speak about my own interactions with Riot this Worlds, because I frequently do, as with everybody, you come out and you talk about things when you're frustrated or when you want to complain or whatever. And I think I did a little bit of this on Twitter and maybe on some hotline leagues last year at Worlds. To give a little bit of context, the very first day of Worlds group stage was really, really bad for media last year. You can go look at this video that Drew and I filmed in a tiny little hallway because they didn't have an interview space, and we were getting a lot less interviews because of the sort of policies and procedures that Riot had put in place on how to handle this stuff. And it was just a bit of a disaster. And I think it's almost a good thing that happened, because the international media experience had been going downhill for years. And then it kind of like frozen in a weird place during COVID. But I had been increasingly frustrated, and over the years had really kind of, I feel like, almost become the boy who cried wolf, where I would talk to Riot and say, hey, if you don't improve this, I will just not be able to come to these things. I can't justify coming out here spending thousands of dollars to be either in an international city or some very expensive city like New York, and then just not be able to get content or to get shitty content or whatever. And Worlds last year, what ended up happening was things got so bad that, one, Riot had to acknowledge it. And I think the other media and I, some of us at least, got together and really had some frank conversations with Riot. And the point of this video is to highlight the fact that those went really, really well. So one, Riot, over the course of that Worlds, did a lot to improve it. In some ways, the ship had sailed in certain areas, but they were still able to improve a lot of the accommodations for us at that group stage, and they were pretty responsive. But a lot of what those conversations were about were, hey, let's talk about what this looks like going forward. How can we make this better? And one of the things that I in particular really pushed for and had been pushing for a bit was, hey, why is there not a day where media can come in and sit down and talk to all the players before the games even start? Because that's when teams are still in pretty high spirits. They're not rushing to get out to get to scrims or tired or whatever. You can really start to discuss what the potentials are for the tournament and have these kind of fun, open-handed things. And that really started at MSI in London this year, where I was able to go make those surprise tests. They were able to get us access to a lot of the players. They hosted us for like a whole media day, or asset day is what they were calling it. And we were able to make some content that I was just not able to make at international events previously, because you just couldn't get access to the players in that context. It was no longer a, let's talk about that shitty game you just lost. It was, hey, what do you think of this? Or, let's do a surprise test or something. And then this World's, Riot really leveled up that whole thing. They made it a 2-day event that took place at LOL Park, the LCK Arena area. And basically over the course of 2, I'd say 8-hour days, we were able to just talk to so many different players, sometimes multiple players from the same team. And it wasn't just me. It was Ashley who was there. It was a lot of different media outlets from many different regions. And then even, I think, some of Riot's own media teams that were not always able to get access to these folks previously were able to get in there and make some really great content. And you know what? Like, the players were pretty chill about it. I think the fact that it was a couple days before the event and they weren't playing meant that a lot of them were in pretty good spirits. They hosted at a pretty cool spot, right, LOL Park, and they had food and stuff for everybody. And so we were just able to create some really neat stuff. So not only did we create surprise tests, which will come out later, but here's a bit of a teaser for one. But we also were able to create these fun kind of quick segments where we'd ask a bunch of players something like, hey, do you have any, who would you thank for getting here? Or what is your favorite dessert? Just goofy stuff like that I think really allowed the ability for these players to showcase their personalities and do neat, fun content that you couldn't really get after they just got smashed by some LCK team that's going to go on to win Worlds or something. The other thing is, well, we didn't focus so much on the sort of sit-down standard interviews that I'm known for in the past. I want to do something a little bit different with this. A lot of the other outlets were able to do some fantastic stuff. So there was that incredible quote, which we'll put on screen here, from Yahoo about Palafox. And that is one example of many different pieces of content that I think really fed into the start of the tournament. So, yeah, this is a really great quote, but it's like got memed on Reddit. People were, I think, talking about it on the broadcast. And so what happens is when you have the opportunity to have one of these days before the event where you can create all of this content, instead of Worlds suddenly appearing kind of out of thin air. I guess there was plans beforehand, but really like all these matches starting to occur without really much context behind them. You have all this sort of story building and narrative stuff that can start to, quite frankly, on its own, manifest over the course of this content getting released a couple days beforehand. And so I think that is like incredibly beneficial, not just for the media, but also for the event and for the players and the teams and for the fans and all these different things. And it really came about because Riot worked with the teams and forced this event to occur. And it's something that I wish they'd done years before. I don't know why it took them this long to do it, but I'm not going to shame them too much for it because I'm just really happy we have it now. So I hope that this is a sign of things to come. I think there have been some other improvements that I've seen on the media side. We're still having internet issues the first day of every event I've ever gone to. I don't know why. But it's really a cool thing to see the media side of Riot start to pay attention to these types of things and set aside spaces and make sure that we're in a good place and all that stuff. It is really a 180 from last year. So I just want to say shout out to them. If you wanted to see some of that content that we've been making from that, you can go see. Well, some of it will end up on YouTube here, but also a bunch of it has been popping off on TikTok, which I think is really neat. You can go follow my TikTok. We've also been posting it over to Twitter. You can follow that. Both those links are in the description, but it should also be on screen right now. And I think, yeah, I mean, this is kind of what the sport needs. I'm so happy that it has it. So thanks to Riot for actually coming around and really investing on the media side in a way I think they haven't before, especially for international events, and hopefully looking forward to doing more of this type of stuff with them in the future. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks so much for watching that video. Before you go, I wanted to show off the new Alienware Aurora R16 desktop. Sharing a space with my roommate, it's always nice to ensure that I'm keeping things quiet while I'm working or gaming. And with its new improved airflow and lower acoustics, my apartment is quieter than ever. All of this while keeping max performance from the hexagonal vents that allow ambient air in. Get yours today at alienware.com/Travis.